Okay, let's just dive right in. Imagine you're a composer, maybe back in the 18th century. Your whole job is writing beautiful music that follows these really strict, logical, almost mathematical rules.
Right. There's a formula for everything.
Exactly. Now, fast forward just 50 years. Suddenly, all those rules are just thrown out the window. What happens when music stops being about structure and tradition and becomes all about sharing raw, personal, intense feeling?
Well, that shift is basically what defines the 19th century. We call it the Romantic era. And its core revolution was emotional. The goal changed from showing off perfect form to, well, to communicating your inner truth.
So it's not just polite background music for the rich anymore.
Not at all. It was about you, the listener, experiencing a composer's most intimate fears, their dreams, their triumph.
Yeah, it was a revolution of the heart. And frankly, a revolution of the ego, right? The big idea here is that every single piece of music was meant to take you on this high-stakes emotional journey.
Absolutely. The music was designed to pull you right into the composer's imagination, making you feel the same joy or agony they felt when they wrote it.
What's so wild is the focus on artistic freedom. This era valued the liberty of the artist above pretty much everything else.
If it felt authentic, if it expressed the deepest, most complex emotion, then it was considered good art. All those old structures, like the really rigid forms that someone like Mozart or Bach used, they suddenly felt way too restrictive.
And that desire to share this overwhelming emotion became the single most important thing driving every piece. They were aiming for music that felt universal.
Because everyone understands longing or joy or passion or deep despair regardless of who you are.
It was the universal language of the heart. But, okay, it needed a new vocabulary. The question is, how do they take those intense abstract emotions and actually translate them into sound?
Well, they had to invent new techniques. First off, they changed the basic building blocks. Melody stopped being these neat, balanced phrases.
And they became what?
Long, flowing, sometimes even fragmented, kind of like a stream of consciousness or a powerful yearning that just keeps going and going.
And they didn't just stick to the comfortable, predictable harmonies of the past, right?
No way. Composers started using something called chromaticism. So if the old rules used notes mostly within one scale, think of it like only using the white keys on a piano for a song.
Okay.
Simple enough. Chromaticism meant they were constantly bringing in notes from outside that key. All those black keys, basically.
So they were always taking these dramatic, surprising detours off the main road.
Exactly. And introducing those in-between notes created this constant feeling of tension and unease. It made the music sound intense or unsettled or just profoundly sad. It kept you on the edge of your seat.
And the volume, the dynamics, they weren't subtle either.
Oh, not at all. Dynamics shifted so quickly. You could go from a dead quiet whisper, what they called pianissimo, to an extremely loud, powerful chord in like the blink of an eye.
That instant shock is pure theater.
It is. It's designed to mimic sudden changes in feeling. And that brings us to the rise of individualism, which is maybe the biggest takeaway. Composers believed their own unique personal experiences were the best source of inspiration.
They weren't just writing to fulfill a church contract anymore. They were writing their story.
Right. They actively worked to develop a personal style, no copies. They wanted you to be able to tell who they were just by hearing a few moments of their music.
And that made the music of the era incredibly diverse. Listeners actually learned to recognize the specific voice of a composer, almost like recognizing a friend's handwriting.
Being different was seen as a great strength.
That seems like a pretty risky way to build a career, though, moving away from what's safe and proven.
It was a huge risk, but it was essential to the movement. They were rejecting the age of reason, which valued universal rules, and they were saying, no, my subjective human experience, my feelings, are more important than any rulebook.
Okay, so if we connect that need for extreme personal expression to the tools they used, there's one instrument that just completely dominated the era. The piano.
Oh, the piano was everything. It became the ultimate vehicle for emotional storytelling, both in the huge concert hall and just, in the family living room.
And this wasn't the delicate little instrument of Mozart's day. The piano itself got a massive upgrade. It gained a strong iron frame, thicker strings.
Which made it much, much louder. And that mechanical evolution was key. It allowed composers to write music that could sound incredibly delicate, almost like lace, but also as powerful as a full orchestra.
It matched the range of human emotion they were trying to capture.
Perfectly. And they often wrote short, intense pieces for the piano, like waltzes or nocturnes, designed to capture a single fleeting mood. Composers like Chopin just perfected this, making the instrument sing like a human voice.
So the piano handles the intimate side. But if we go from the living room to the huge concert hall, the orchestra also had to evolve to tell these grand epic stories.
The orchestra became this massive muscular body for the Romantic movement. It grew so much larger than ever before.
Why? Just for more volume.
Volume was part of it, but it was really about color. They were building a massive sonic palette. New instruments were added permanently, like the piccolo, the deep tuba, the English horn.
All to give the music more texture.
More color, exactly. That color, or what we call timbre, is about mixing unique sounds in new ways. A composer could combine low strings with muted brass to create a sound that had never existed before, something dark and foreboding.
And that massive sound could convey anything from a huge military victory to just deep, crushing despair.
And the percussion section was absolutely essential for the drama. It got way bigger gongs, enormous bass drums, bells all used to punctuate the big emotional moments.
So with all those players, sometimes 100 or more, you need someone in charge.
And that's where the conductor becomes this crucial controlling figure. They weren't just keeping time, they were shaping all those different voices into one coherent emotional statement.
Right. And speaking of personal statements, this era also gave us the virtuoso. You have to know that word.
The virtuoso is basically a performer with just unbelievable technical skill. Think of them like a modern rock star who practices constantly and has these huge fanatical audiences.
Yeah, composers like Liszt on the piano or Paganini on the violin, they wrote music specifically to show off those almost superhuman skills. We're talking extremely fast scales, notes that are impossibly high.
But it wasn't just showing off, though. That definitely drew crowds. That high level of difficulty was seen as a profound statement about the potential of the human spirit.
So if they weren't writing for the church, what inspired these composers? Where did all these dramatic stories come from?
We can really break their inspiration down into four main themes. Let's start with the first one, nature.
Okay, nature.
Nature was absolutely central. Composers saw it as a source of peace, but also immense unpredictable power. You know, everything from a still lake to a terrifying lightning storm.
And they use the orchestra to mimic these sounds, right?
Brilliantly. Woodwinds like the flute or clarinet were perfect for bird songs or wind whistling through trees.
While the big brass instruments, the horns and trombones, they were for the huge stuff.
Right, the height of a mountain range, the vastness of the ocean, the chaos of a storm. The changing seasons were a really common theme.
Okay, theme 2, program music. This is a big word.
A very big one. Program music is music designed to tell a specific written story or describe a scene rather than just being abstract sounds.
It's music with a plot.
Exactly. The composer would literally hand the audience a printed program that detailed the story, movement by movement, so you knew exactly what you were supposed to be picturing.
That's incredible. So instruments could be characters?
Yep. A recurring melody might represent the hero's beloved, while the lowest, darkest instruments might represent a monster or a villain. It made classical music really accessible and exciting.
Got it. Okay, theme 3, nationalism.
This one is rooted in the politics of the 19th century, the rise of nations and people taking pride in their own unique cultures.
So composers started putting their own folk songs and traditional dances right into their symphonies.
They did. It was a powerful cultural statement. They'd use these traditional sounds to tell stories about their own national heroes or historical events. It connected the music directly to the people.
And it introduced global audiences to all these unique cultural sounds.
Which leads us to the final theme, number 4, which kind of contrasts with nationalism, exoticism.
Exoticism, so an interest in faraway places.
Exactly. Composers and audiences were fascinated by lands like Asia or the Middle East or Africa. It wasn't always historically accurate, but it was musically influential.
So they tried to imitate those sounds.
They did. They'd use unusual scales and rhythms to give their music a sense of mystery and adventure. It was like an imaginative travelogue, letting listeners visit distant lands in their minds.
Okay, so we've covered the huge epic stuff. What about the smaller, more intimate music?
Well, for that, we have to talk about the art song, or the Lied, as it's called in German.
Lied. So what is that?
It's usually a piece for a single singer, accompanied by a piano, often performed in a small, private room. The perfect way to express deep, individual emotions, like whispering a secret.
And the lyrics came from famous poems, right? About love and loss and nature.
Yes, but here's the genius part. The piano wasn't just accompaniment. It was a co-narrator.
What do you mean?
If the poem mentioned a spinning wheel, the piano would play a constant whirring rhythm to mimic the sound. It provided the emotional setting. It was an equal partner in telling the story.
Wow. Okay, so from that small, intimate scale, let's jump to the opposite end. Opera.
Opera became the ultimate expression of grand spectacle in this era. The stories were all tragic love, personal struggles against fate, historical melodrama, just huge emotions.
And the music became more continuous, right? Less stopping for applause after every song.
Right, they wanted relentless drama, and the orchestra played a massive role, setting the mood, reflecting the characters' inner thoughts. The singers had to develop incredibly powerful voices just to be heard over it all.
And the stages themselves became these huge, realistic sets with special effects.
Everything was designed to overwhelm you, to make you feel the character's intense pain or joy as powerfully as possible.
So what does all of this mean for us today? What's the legacy?
The legacy is huge. I mean, we still fundamentally believe that music should express deep inner feelings. That's a romantic idea.
And the large symphony orchestra, that's still the standard for everything from concert halls to movie scores?
Absolutely. And we still admire that unique, individual artist, the person who creates something deeply personal. That idea of the virtuosic genius, the rock star, that all started right here.
The power of this music is that it connects us to these really basic human experiences, like love and loss, even though it was written centuries ago.
It shows us that while technology and fashion change, the fundamental architecture of the human heart and our need to express it, that remains universal.
That's a wrap on the music of the Romantic movement. Good luck with your studies, and keep listening for the feeling.